Hello and welcome to Maid's Crochet. I am Rachel and it is time to get started on my crochet project for 2025. Now, I don't always do a year-long crochet project, but the book blanket's done. It was a lot of work for last year in 2024. It nearly broke me in the end because I was so ready for it to be over, but I am going to soldier on, and instead of books this year, I am going to keep a record via yarn of all the movies I watch. So that includes everything, rewatches and new to me movies, or old movies that are new to me. And trust me, there are a lot because my film watching has fallen off quite a bit in the recent years. So I did mention in my very first video that I used to have a film podcast and blog way many years ago in my late 20s, early 30s, but it was a really good time. And I met people from all over the world who also did the same thing. We had a little club, if you will, online called the Large Association of Movie Blogs. They might still be kicking around out there, but you know, life happened and I had kids and we moved around and it just wasn't very easy to do that anymore. So I used to watch tons of movies all the time. I mean, so many in just 1 week. It was insane. I don't even know how I did it, and still worked a 40-hour-week job. And my oldest was born at the time. She was a toddler. So what I used to be able to keep up with compared to how I barely even watch movies nowadays, it is just shocking how much it has fallen off in the last 10 years. But, you know, things come and go in our life. That was one chapter, but I would like to kind of catch up with some stuff I've missed over the years. So I'll be doing that this year. I don't have a goal. Like last year it was 100 books. There is no goal this year. Let me put it that way. And I will not be trying to recreate movie posters because, let's face it, like 80% of them are just floating heads of the cast anyway, so they're not that interesting, not like book covers can be. So instead, what I will do is I'm going to have a color palette of 5 colors. There will be 3 rankings, 1 for rewatch and 1 as an accent color. So the plan is to do a granny square for every month, and every row will be a different movie. It'll be ranked on how I felt about it, 1 through 3. It's not going to be that deep, really. 1 is I never want to watch it again or don't need to ever really watch it again, and 3 is I absolutely love it. 2 could go either way. I genuinely feel that most of the films will be 2s because I don't typically seek out things I know I'm going to hate. I will do it just for the plot of this. I will watch a little bit more that I know I probably wouldn't like just for this project, so we have some variation. Unfortunately, you never know about a 3. Like, I can't guarantee that anything will be a 3. There will be, well, I can probably guarantee Wicked for Good in November will be a 3, but that's a long ways away, so I hope I find something between now and then. And so I expect a lot of 2s, and I expect a lot of rewatches, and then the accent color. And the final project will be a 3 square by 4 square in the end for the months. That's it. It's going to be pretty simple. So there'll be no overhead camera of me sitting here making really intricate squares or anything. I'll just sit here and work on the rounds as I talk about the movies that I've watched. That's my plan. I hope it works. I hope I'm not setting myself up for failure. But my first big problem was picking colors. I'm really bad at picking colors. So I'm going to show you footage from about a week and a half ago where I ran a color palette generator to do this for me. And then I went and picked up my colors. It doesn't exactly go as planned, but I did my best. So, and then I'll come back and I'll show you the yarn I bought and what each color means. So watch what I did a week and a half ago to pick the colors, and then I will come back and show you what I actually did end up with at the store. All right, let's pick a color palette. This is a big problem of mine. I either want to do like rainbow or grayscale, and I can't really mix and match colors in between very well. I mean, maybe like some fall colors or, you know, pastels or something. But I want something different this time. So I'm going to use a color palette generator online, a website called Coolers, and I'm going to let it decide for me. So I'm going to generate 3 different color palettes for the options. I will go ahead and say that monochrome will be immediately vetoed because I don't want like 5 different shades of yellow or something like that. So I will get 3. I will veto 1 on my own, the one I like the least, and the other 2 I will leave up to a coin toss. And that's how we're going to decide this. I'm not going to sit there and just keep generating until I find something that I love. I want to push myself into accepting a color palette that I would not put these colors together. So I'm going to pull up the website and we will do this together. So you know I'm not cheating, I hope. Okay, so here's the website, Coolers, and we are going to roll it and try to get 3 palettes out of this that are not monochromatic or have repeats, because sometimes they'll repeat a color. Earlier I was playing around, it was like black, green, orange, yellow, black again, like why bother? And then there was one where it had 2 shades, both named charcoal and barely different than each other, and that's practically a repeat in my opinion. So we won't be doing that. Anything that's too close, we just won't be doing. And I'm not going to re-roll the color either, because you can just like re-roll one color or two colors or whatever. That's not the point of this. I'm just trying to leave it up to the fates to see what I get with enough variation that will look good. So, but I think like 3 monochromatic colors that have 2 very different accent colors would look good, but we'll see what happens. So let's roll and see what the internet gods bestow upon us. Are you ready? Start generator, come on. Wow, okay. That's bright, but I like it. Like, it's very fun. I never would have picked this ever in a million years. All right. Number 2. Also interesting. Like, here's that 3 monochromatic gradient and then 2 very different colors. White's kind of boring, but like, it'd be okay. Full screen, okay. One more. Another very different one. Timberwolf. Is that gray? Yeah, okay. All right, like a light gray. Very interesting. All right. Okay, so here are our options, the screenshots. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and veto the one with the neutrals and the purple and white. If it had not been purple and white, like if it had been something else, I may have been fine with it, but no. So now we have 2 that are kind of similar. It's okay, because there's still enough difference that I can work with it. All right, so got a quarter. We're gonna flip. The one with the gray, yeah, the Timberwolf one, that'll be heads. And then the other one will be tails. I can't read some of these colors. The words are a little hard. So heads, the one with the gray. Yeah. Tails, the other one. Yeah. It is tails. What state is this? Okay, so it'll be the yellow, the raspberry, magenta, teal, and new photo blue. I don't know how to say that yellow one. Xanthus? Xanthus? I don't know. Anyway, that's what we're getting. I have no idea what the colors are going to represent at all. Have I made a mistake? Possibly. Well, those are the colors. Hopefully I can get out tomorrow and go shopping or look online. I haven't decided yet. Okay, hear me out. The blue, I could not find. I'm sorry. Anything light enough was too dull to go with this very bright palette, and anything darker was too close to this turquoise, which I found a greener tealish color, but it was much darker and it didn't go with everything else. So I went more this direction, but that also means that the blue was completely off. So I went with this more stripy color that I think will look good with all of them. It doesn't really have yellow. This is more of an orangey color, but I think overall it'll work all together. So with that being said, let me rearrange these 2. This will be anything I rate for a 1, means I either really hated it, never want to watch it again, or maybe it wasn't horrible, terrible, the worst thing ever, but like I just don't have a desire to watch it again. 2, it could go either way. Yeah, I could watch it again, be fine. If I never see it again, also fine. I don't care. 3, love it, have to have it, want to watch it as soon as I leave the theater or finish watching it the first time at home, whatever. Definitely want to give it another watch immediately. Rewatches, accent color. That's what we're working with. This isn't that deep. This isn't like everything that's highly critically acclaimed with the best acting, best direction, best cinematography, best script, best everything will get a 3. No. If I had to be 100% honest, I'd probably put Schindler's List at like a 2, and anything really deep and heavy, because I don't want to necessarily watch it again. I wouldn't say no to it, but I'm not rushing out to watch it again. So I was going to do the first round in the accent color, but since it's more of a stripy than a straight up variegated, it's all going to end up one solid color instead. So we won't be doing that. So we'll just use it on months that did not have the same high number of watches as other months and seaming it together in borders. That'll be what this is for. I highly anticipate these being the biggest colors. So unfortunately, I can't start it right now because I have something else I have to do, but I will get back to it later tonight. But at least this part is now explained and I can just get to work on the blanket. So, see you in a bit. Okay, so my first movie of the year is a rewatch. It was Little Miss Sunshine. It is one of my favorite films ever.
About Little Mrs. Sunshine?
Little Miss Sunshine?
Yeah.
What? Remember when Olive was runner-up in the regional Little Miss Sunshine? That's the girl who won had to forfeit her crown. I don't know why, something about diet pills, but anyway, now she has a place in the state contest in Redondo Beach.
It's not a family film, but it is a film about family, I guess you could say. So if you don't know, it's about a family that pretty much can't stand each other for the most part. They're all miserable in their own lives and with each other, but they all kind of put it aside to drive the youngest daughter, who's maybe 10, played by a very young Abigail Breslin, to a beauty pageant, like, I don't know, probably 14 hours away, and everything that happens to them on the way. And it is just really funny and sweet and sad, but mostly funny, like hysterically funny. And by the end, they realize they can come together and put up with each other to at least make the daughter happy, at least make somebody happy. So, highly recommend. Love it. All right, and there's our first movie of the year. If you couldn't tell, I am using a 4-weight acrylic yarn and a 6mm hook. The next movie is a rewatch, so I don't have to cut off my yarn just yet. That's exciting. So we thought it would be fun to show the girls Men in Black from 1997.
I'm gonna get some coffee. You want some coffee? No, thank you. I'm fine.
Hey there, fellas. You guys get along all right?
All right, I'm in.
And, well, show them all the Men in Black movies. I did not know we were going to watch all of them, but we did. We did start with the first one. Not all in the same night, but over several weeks. And just the classic 1997 sci-fi comedy with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. Will Smith doing his fast-talking, goofy Will Smith thing that was very popular in the 90s, and Tommy Lee Jones just being the very stoic Tommy Lee Jones. So, chasing aliens around New York. It was a good time. And yes, the girls thought it was hilarious as well, as we did almost 30 years ago now. Oh, good lord. I think these videos are probably going to more than anything make me feel old with all the rewatches and trying to show our girls stuff that we used to love back in our day of being younger. Okay, so we're at 2 rounds, and it's time to cut. Because my next one was not a rewatch. And yes, I am doing these all in order, so even though I rewatched the other Men in Black movies, they will have to wait their turn and get a little variety in here. Next was last year's Abigail, which is about a vampire ballerina.
A ballerina vampire?
What can I say? I like playing with my food.
If you saw the trailer, it is exactly what you would expect that movie to be like. I mean, there's a few like reveals in it, but overall, it's exactly what you expect. And that is exactly what I wanted, but it's getting a pink. Like, it's a 2 for sure. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, but I would be happy to, but I don't need to watch it again. Abigail is about a group of people who try to kidnap, or I guess they succeed, or they think they succeed in kidnapping a little girl who they are going to hold for ransom for like $50 million or some arbitrary number. Anyway, they are all just going to spend the night in a house until they get paid. Yeah, she's a vampire. She's also a dancer, so they snatch her from like ballet rehearsal, and she's got the tutu on, and so it's a vampire ballerina, and she picks them off one by one in a very gory, fun way. So the directors, I cannot remember their names right now, they did a similar toned movie called Hide and Seek a few years ago that I really enjoyed. It was a lot of fun, and they've done the last 2 Scream movies, so I knew I was gonna have a good time. And like I said, it was exactly what I expected from the trailer, and that is all I could ask for, really. But it's not a must rewatch. It's just good fun, but it is incredibly gory. So if that is something that bothers you, maybe skip it. So I cut my yarn because I'm going back to purple for a rewatch, because now we're on to Men in Black 2.
You don't remember me, but we used to work together.
I never worked in a funeral home.
It feels like a cash grab right off the bat, which, I mean, obviously it's Hollywood. That's what they're going to do. Hey, we made a lot of money off this one concept. Let's beat it to death. And that's what they did. Honestly, if this was the first time of me seeing it, it would be a 1, because it's just not very good. But it is a rewatch. I was kind of hoping we could go to Independence Day and watch another alien movie with Will Smith, just more on the dramatic sci-fi side. But no, we went and did all the X-Men. We actually did do all the X-Men last year. No, we went and did all the Men in Black. Sorry. But yeah, pretty much just the same antics. Okay, it's time to cut the yarn again because I watched last year's remake of Mean Girls.
Get in, loser.
Welcome, Katie. You're never gonna believe what I found this morning. Your burn book.
Mom, go make snacks.
For sure, Regina, yeah.
Only this one was based off the Broadway musical. I had not seen it before. So, gotta cut the yarn and go for a 1. Oh boy, was it terrible. The bar was already on the floor, and yet somehow I still ended up in hell. Now, originally when I saw the trailer like last February, it may have even been in January, I can't remember when the movie actually came out, I was pretty passive about it. I was like, you know, it's not for me, it's not for my generation. I just heard a noise. Anyway, and I thought, but you know, if other people want to enjoy it, I'm sure that's fine for them, whatever. I know that it was based off the Broadway musical, which was based off the original movie, and Tina Fey's been involved in pretty much all of it. So I was just going to leave well enough alone. And then all the reviews came out and so many people hated it. And I don't know if it's just like people who love the original hated it because of what it was, or if, you know, other people thought it was a genuinely bad movie. I didn't know. I wasn't reading through it because, again, I didn't care to watch it. Wasn't going to engage. But then I decided to engage. And I was like, I know I'm not going to like it, but man, I did not think I was going to hate it as much as I did. First of all, not everything needs to be turned into a musical. Let's just get that out of the way. And second of all, if you're going to turn it into a musical, make the music good. The music in this movie was so bland and forgettable immediately. I couldn't tell you the name of a single song because that's how boring it was. So Angry Rice, who plays Katie, the main character, Lindsay Lohan, she was a very weak singer. I won't say she was a bad singer. I'm just saying she's a weak singer. And I don't know if it's because she's actually Australian and she was afraid of like maybe her natural Australian accent coming out or being able to be heard if she sang more. She didn't even have that many songs though. I think only like 2, but it was not good. For the star of the film, well, I mean, yes, you could argue that Regina George is more of a star, but I mean, Katie is the main character. Anyway, what I really hated most of all, the original movie is already very extreme in everything it does. Like, Karen is already really dumb, and Gretchen is already like a gossipy pick-me, and Regina is a mean, mean girl. It just things like that. It's already so over the top with what it is. And this just parodied that even more, to the point where it was unwatchable. It was like watching those old like Wayans Brothers movies, like Scary Movie and just Not Another Teen Movie. I mean, they're not all Wayans Brothers movies, I know, but all those parody movies of popular things that just amp up the silliness and stupidity beyond enjoyment for the most part. That's what this did. That's what it felt like, only put to really shitty music. I just do not understand why they thought this was ever going to be a good idea. So the only thing that really worked for me was Busy Phillips as Regina George's mom, because she and Renee Rapp do look like they could be related. And then also I think Jenna Fisher as Angry Rice's mom, as Mrs. Heron. They look pretty similar too. So that casting was kind of spot on. Otherwise, I just did not like any of it. And then Lindsay Lohan's cameo. Hi. What you doing? I'm just making a blanket and talking about shitty movies. Well, Klaus doesn't care. I guess above all, I just feel like disrespected by Tina Fey that she would do this to us. Because I'm taking it pretty personally at this point. I shouldn't, but I am. I mean, maybe it's better on stage. Maybe it works better as a live stage production, but this movie did not work. So to summarize, I hated it so much that I stopped halfway through and went outside to shovel snow. And words can't express how much I hate shoveling snow. Now, I did finish the movie. I got back to it. But I hated the experience that I was having, that I just had to walk away. So yeah, skip Mean Girls, the musical, if you haven't already. Or if you're curious about it and you're like, will it be bad? Yes, it was bad. And I'm not normally someone who's like, oh, don't watch it. You know, if you want to see it, go see it. I'm just trying to save you some time. Because it is a commodity. This is going to be kind of a wonky-ass blanket, too. Interesting. But I'm already in it, so I don't really give a shit. I know blocking will help, maybe. Once the color changes. Well, it's gonna be wavy. I don't care. This is just for fun. Anyway, so I am going to stop for now. I'm 5 in. And I will come back and work on it some more tomorrow. Maybe weave in these ends, so I don't have to do them all at the end. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so everything I said previously in this video, scrap it. We're starting over. I was working on the granny square. Yes, gonna do it 1 row for each movie and then 1 granny square per month. And I just did not like the way it was looking. It was very wavy. Granny squares tend to have that warped, twisted effect because you're pretty much just going round and round. Yes, there are ways to not get that. You can go the opposite direction every other round or every round and it'll lay flatter. I've done it. It's fine. It's not my favorite though. So I have changed directions and instead I will be doing 1 smaller granny square per movie. Now, because of that, I am going to need a goal because that does require more matchup. So I'm gonna say 16 movies per month, which would put us at 4x4 squares. So these are 3 round squares with a border of single crochet stitch in the accent color all the way around. I changed my mind on this, not just because of the way that the larger granny square was gonna end up looking and needing all kinds of blocking and everything, but also I wasn't gonna get much use out of this either. So until like the end. So you will also see that something else has changed. I've decided with all the movies I rewatch, they're not all created equal. Just because I'm rewatching it doesn't mean I love it. So the starting round will be the color coordinating with the rating system for the rest of the new to me movies of the year. For example, this is Little Miss Sunshine, blue in the middle, which is absolutely loved it. Can't wait to watch it again. And then it's surrounded by purple to signify that it was a rewatch. And this would be Men in Black because it's a classic. I've seen it many, many times and it's fun. And then again, Solid for Abigail. And this would be Men in Black too because I really don't think it's a very good movie. But I rewatched it because it was part of the series that we were showing the girls. So I would give it like a lowest rating, but it was a rewatch. So here we are. And then Mean Girls 2024 musical garbage. So aiming for 16 movies per month. Hopefully I don't have to do a solid one of these to fill in empty spaces. It's almost an average of a movie every other day, which I can absolutely handle, but we'll see. And 16 is really not like too much pressure. Like it'll end up being 192 movies. So also my little log notebook has exactly 192 pages in it. I think it's meant to be. So when I have 16, I'll connect all 4 of those and then do this around to make it like the January month. And then I'll connect 3 of those big ones and then across and then 4 down. It's going to be more work in the long run, but I'm totally fine with that. I think it'll look better and that's what is most important. Okay, so next, Brad and I went out this past weekend and we went and saw The Wolfman, or just Wolfman, I don't know. It's a story that's been done a lot. Basically, a dude gets bitten and turns into a werewolf.
Hello? We were in an accident.
Daddy, are we gonna die?
No, it's my job to protect you.
And we were attacked. I think my husband was infected.
As far as I could tell, the original one with Lon Chaney Jr. came out in 1941. If there has been one before that, I didn't see it. This is not a bad movie, in my opinion. Not like the suffering I did during Mean Girls. I didn't feel the need to stand up and go shovel snow. But, so it's basically a couple who, the husband has not had contact with his almost survivalist type father who lives in a very remote area of Oregon for many, many years. And he gets word of his assumed death. He's been missing, but now it's just assumed that he's died. And the son lives with his wife and daughter in a bigger city. He is an out-of-work writer, so he's a stay-at-home dad at this point, which is fine. He and his daughter have a wonderful, close connection, and his wife's a journalist. So they have to take a trip back to his home and clear out his dad's house, put it up for sale, all those kinds of things that happen. On the way, they are in a truck accident because it is a very dark, windy, twisty road. And there was an opening with him as a boy and him seeing something that wasn't quite man, not quite animal, and rumors of a hiker that had gone missing at some point. So they're in the moving truck, they're in an accident, they're toppled over, and then something is crawling on the truck, and he gets scratched. The husband gets scratched. So they make it to the house, barely escaping whatever creature was chasing them. And they're in the house, not really sure what to do, but he is getting sicker and sicker because he's turning into a freaking werewolf. So like I said earlier, the movie wasn't bad. It was creepy, but not scary, like the darkness, because everything takes place over one night after they've been in the accident until the next morning. And so it's very dark. It is very remote. It is very isolated. It's creepy being out there. I can't imagine how awful it is, especially for someone like his wife, played by Julia Garner, who I really like her. We had just finished watching Ozark the night before. But I can't imagine how creepy something like that, because she's somebody who's from the city and has never experienced complete isolation out in a remote area like that, could handle it. And there were some really good scenes of him turning into the werewolf or the wolfman, where like it's the same scene and they just pan the camera back and forth between like him and his wife as she's talking to him, and it shows how he is losing his ability to understand human speech. His sight is becoming heightened by like thermal whatever, thermal signature patterns, however they think animals see things. You get it. And then it'll like pan back to her, and it almost like it goes through like a bubble that he's in, and you can hear her talking and everything. So the part where you can actually see him losing his humanity and turning into the beast is interesting from his own point of view. But once it's over, it's over. There's nothing more to it, really. So 2025's Wolfman, not bad, but literally nothing particularly memorable about it. And I probably won't be able to tell you much in 6 months. So we finished our Men in Black rewatch with Men in Black 3, because that's all there is.
Hey man, how old are you?
29.
Oof. You got some city miles on you.
So I'm doing pink for a 2 for the first round of the Granny Square, because having rewatched it, I do think it was a pretty good, decent movie. Definitely better than the second one, which was just a really crappy, kind of dumb cash grab. The third one, it really all hinged on Josh Brolin. So in this one, because it's pretty much almost a given that at some point some franchises feels like it's going to try time travel, and this one did in the third one. So one of Kay's former alien foes that he caught and imprisoned many years prior escapes and goes back in time and takes him out. So then Jay has to go back in time before he does that, like the day before, to stop the alien from getting rid of Kay. And younger Kay is played by Josh Brolin, doing a fantastic impression of Tommy Lee Jones. Very uncanny. So that was great. And then Michael Stuhlbarg plays an alien that can not exactly predict the future, but can live or experience or knows multiple dimensions at one time. So can see the outcomes of all these dimensions. So it's kind of like telling the future, but also all these different possibilities at once. He was very good as well. And Will Smith was Will Smith, as we expect. The time travel worked. And it was fun all around. So it's Men in Black 3. Didn't have a whole lot to say about it. Not as good as the first, better than the second. But part of a franchise at this point. So I have another rewatch, but it is a 3 for me. Mad Max Fury Road from 2015. I love that movie.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
So this is the one with Tom Hardy as Mad Max and Charlize Theron. She is kind of like the lead driver for Immortan Joe. He's one of the warlords of, the post-apocalyptic hellscape. She drives the rig between the other two settlements to deliver food and water and she collects like gas and ammunition from the other places. But on this run, she actually sneaks out Immortan Joe's wives or breeders that get special treatment, but yeah, they have to have his babies. And the wasteland that it is, rarely are babies born healthy. But she promises to sneak them out and take them to the place where she's from originally, however many years prior, from which she was taken from, called the Land of the Mothers. Mad Max, played by Tom Hardy, gets caught up in all of this when he gets kidnapped by Immortan Joe's war boys. And it's all like this weird cult mentality where like the war boys would absolutely die for Immortan Joe, and to die in battle for him is the greatest thing ever, and they'll all end up in Valhalla. It's weird, it's creepy. So then very soon, Immortan Joe realizes what's going on, and he takes like his entire army of war boys and the leaders of the other two colonies, and they all take off after Furiosa, who is Charlize Theron, and try to get his wives back. And one of the war boys gets mixed up with it. He was trying to get them back, but he ends up on their side, and he's played by Nicholas Hoult. Anyway, film is absolutely stunning, and seeing it on the big screen was fabulous. It was so gorgeous. The action is just unlike anything I've seen. It is crazy. It is futuristic, post-apocalyptic, bananas. I don't even know how to describe it. And I did watch the first two Mad Max films with Mel Gibson after I saw this, because I'd never seen any Mad Max before. Nope. I did not like it. And George Miller did all of them, as far as I know. But Did not care for the first two. Didn't bother with the third one. But Mad Max Fury Road, just stunning. Love it. And I did watch it for a reason. And that reason was I wanted to watch Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga from last year, which is Furiosa's origin story.
Promise me you'll find your way home. Furiosa. Give me this promise.
Unfortunately. So in this one, Furiosa is taken from the place of the mothers, the green place, the place she's trying to take the wives in the first one, or not the first one, but in Fury Road. Anyway, she's taken as a child and her mother is killed while trying to retrieve her. All this is said in Fury Road. So we always kind of assumed Immortan Joe or his folks took her when she was little. Turns out it was a completely different person. It was a guy named Dementus, played by Chris Hemsworth. Since we know that Immortan Joe is in Fury Road, which is Furiosa's future, we know what happens with all of that. It was pretty much just waiting for her to lose her arm and get revenge on Dementus, who ended up finding the Citadel, but taking over, I think it was Gastown, and running it into the ground. So it was an hour into this 2.5-hour movie before Furiosa grew up to be Anya Taylor-Joy, who's disguising herself as a boy for the longest time to stay safe inside the Citadel, because she did eventually get traded by Dementus, or went to Immortan Joe. Yeah, I think she went there as part of a trade, but she kind of went on her own because she hated Dementus, obviously, for kidnapping her and killing her mom, obviously. And eventually she trains to drive the rig after helping fight off an attack during a run. And there's a guy named Jack, I'm sorry, I don't know the actor's name, but and I'm not gonna look it up because I don't care. Basically, this character could have been played by a rock. It's literally just a lot of staring and glaring. He's the main driver for Joe at that point, which is what she becomes, which she's known for in the second one. And she helps him defend an attack, and he teaches her everything he knows, and he says, you know, if you help me build up a crew again, then I will help you build something to where you can escape and go back to where you're from. I don't care where it is. And I'll teach you how to drive and defend yourself like I do. And so that happens, but I'm going to leave it at that. Really, all this movie was just seeing her get taken originally, seeing how she lost her arm, and then getting revenge on Dementus for all of it. And it took a really long time to tell this story. I hate to say when a movie feels unnecessary, because, I mean, are any movies technically necessary? But in comparison to Fury Road, I feel like Furiosa was already a really great character. I don't feel like we needed to see an origin story. It's like, in that one we learned she was taken as a child, and she was raised in this place that she hated. She hated Immortan Joe, but she was there, and she was surviving, and that's all we really needed to know. She was a great mechanic and a great driver, and she was missing an arm. I don't feel like this story added anything to that. Seeing it did not add to her character for me, and it just wasn't as impressive as Fury Road was. But you know what? At least it got me to watch Fury Road again to prepare myself to watch this one. So I can't be totally mad about it, but I absolutely don't feel like I need to watch Furiosa ever again. And we're done. I only got 3 done today, but I'm tired. So if I hadn't had to redo the first 5, I'd be so much further along. But I do think I am going to like this process so much more. These aren't technically done because I have to weave in the ends and put the accent color around it. But I will clean these up off camera, and we'll be back tomorrow for more fun. We're back. Got a few more to knock out. Quite a few more to knock out, actually. But the next movie is A Quiet Place Day 1. It is a prequel to A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2, because it takes place on day 1. Yeah, and those take place about a year and a half after. So did we really need that story? No. I really love A Quiet Place, the first one. The second one was good. I have not seen it since I watched it in the theater, but it was good. I didn't really feel like a sequel was necessary, but I watched it and enjoyed it anyway, so might as well watch the prequel. I waffled back and forth on this one. It took me a time to decide. The only connection to the other two is Jamin Hansu is in the second half of the second movie, A Quiet Place 2, and his character is at the beginning and very, very end of this one. That is the only connection other than the aliens, obviously. But I finally came down and I decided I would watch it again. And not just because it's part of this world that John Krasinski set up, and I really, really do enjoy. In case you're unaware, A Quiet Place, the first one, starts about a good time into this alien invasion of a bunch of aliens who can't see, but they can hear just about any movement, and they attack. So there's a small family living in upstate New York, 2 parents and 2 kids. Their teenage daughter is deaf, so they've been able to communicate very easily through sign language because it's something they've always had to do. And that's one of the ways they've survived that long. And then that story wraps up. I'm not going to spoil anything. A Quiet Place 2 picks up immediately after the first one. Things expand beyond the Abbott family farm from the first one. Not going to spoil anything there either. So this one is day 1, New York City. So Sam, played by Lupita Nyong'o, is in hospice care. She's dying from cancer. Their group's going to go in the city and see a show, but aliens invade instead, and things get bad fast, incredibly fast. So along the way, probably almost, I don't know, about halfway through the movie, she meets up with Joseph Quinn. Oh my God, is that his name? You know, Eddie from Stranger Things season 4. Joseph Quinn, right? Oh, I feel so bad if that's not his name. Anyway, she meets up with him, and she doesn't really want to walk around with somebody, but he is completely lost. This was confusing. He was a law student from Kent. Now, I just have to wonder, do people from other countries come to America to study law? And do they stay here to practice the law? Because certainly, would they go back to their own country and not practice the law that they learned here in America? That part confused me. I didn't bother looking it up, but anyway, he's a law student. That's the bottom line. He's a law student from England. He has no family. He has nowhere to go. So he ends up following her, and she is eventually like, fine, whatever. So then it's just the two of them looking out for each other. It's only over a couple of days. And I think the thing that saves it for me is their relationship, because all Sam wants to do, like, she's dying. She's like, okay, this might as well happen because she's already not doing very well if she's in a hospice facility. All she wants to do is go to Patsy's in Harlem and get a slice of pizza before she dies, before anything else happens. That's all she wants, because it was a childhood memory thing of watching her dad play jazz and then going to get pizza afterwards at Patsy's. So that's it. That's the goal. So it becomes a journey of these two very unlikely people making a trip to get pizza together. And then Sam's cat, Frodo. Helicopter. I live by 2 hospitals. Anyway, I did waffle back and forth on my feelings for this movie. At first I was like, nah, we don't need this, like, as I was watching it. And then I think once Sam and Eric really bonded and had each other's backs, and they were such an unlikely duo, it sold me. Especially Lupita Nyong'o. She's just fantastic. So I would probably still rank this one 3rd out of all 3 of the Quiet Place movies. It didn't do much for the lore, but by the end, I was sold on these 2 characters and their bond and the story through really good performances. So I will go ahead and give it a 2 and put it like right below A Quiet Place 2. All right, so I'm picking up pink again because I watched Saturday Night, which is a story. I don't know how true it is, but it is a story of the 90 minutes before the first episode of Saturday Night Live premiered back in 1975.
Jesus Christ. Sorry, tripped over my penis.
So I thought the movie was fun and chaotic. A lot of stuff going on at once, which is what you would kind of expect. There's kind of a backstory of how the NBC execs didn't actually want this show. They just greenlit it because they were in negotiations with Carson about reruns on Saturday night of his show. That is why they agreed to it. I don't know how true any of this is. And that's the thing. I would love to know how much of the film is actually based in truth and how much of it was just made up for a good story. It is a timely story considering that it is the 50th year that Saturday Night Live has been on. But I genuinely have to wonder, would it still be a good movie if it weren't supposedly based on this, what has become an American institution of sketch comedy? Would this be a good movie on its own in a world where none of Saturday Night Live or any of these actors being portrayed or any of the history were behind it, pushing us to see what it wants us to see? Obviously, there's no way to know, but it was very enjoyable. I did read that Chevy Chase absolutely hated the movie, but nobody's really listened to Chevy Chase in a very long time either, because he kind of turned out to be a jerk. So, for what it was, a potentially highly fictionalized story of the beginning of this very long-running show that has had its ups and downs over the decades, it was a very fun movie, and I would definitely give it another shot. I'm going to knock out one more tonight, and it is 2022's The Menu.
We now offer you a 45-second head start. Okay, 45 seconds starts now.
Ray Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicholas Hoult, other people with names, but I'm not thinking of them right now. I loved it so much. Let's get into it. Okay, so the movie starts off with Nicholas Hoult and Anya Taylor-Joy as a couple, seemingly, getting on a boat to go to like one of those restaurants on an island that's run by some world-famous chef. And I know these places exist in real life, but like absolutely not. And for all the reasons in this movie, that they say that the restaurant takes like 12 at a time as far as reservations. So there's an older couple that have been there multiple times. There's a very famous food critic and the like editor of the traveling magazine she works for. There's some investment bros who are just as obnoxious as you can imagine. And there's like a washed up actor who's trying to get some food show off the ground. And so he thought he would practice at this place, I guess. Anyway, and his assistant. So they get out there and Ray Fiennes is the chef. And yeah, it's creepy, but like fun creepy. So they take a tour of the island. The entire staff sleep in one room, like lined with beds, like a little bunker. They have open toilets. It's creepy how they're up at 6 a.m., but they don't finish until about 2 o'clock in the morning. It's very cultish and odd. And then dinner starts and it gets progressively weird, but in such a funny way. Like the dark humor just sells it. I did not expect to love it as much as I did, but it was such a lovely surprise. I really enjoyed it. So I can't wait to watch it again. I was telling Brad about it, and he's like, oh, I'll have to put that on my list. And so like if he sits down to watch it, I will probably sit down and watch it with him. Even if it's next week, I don't care. I want to watch it again because now it's time to go back and, you know, like you watch something, you don't know what's coming next, and so you're into it, and then you really love it, and then it's time to rewatch it and catch all the things you didn't catch the first time because you were trying to catch what was happening. And all the performances are excellent, but I gotta say, this is my favorite Ray Fiennes villain performance. I said what I said. My first new watch of this year, that's a 3. Didn't expect it. Very happy about it. The Menu. And that's all I got tonight. I will finish the last 4 tomorrow and put the whole square together. We are back to finish up the last row. We have 4 more movies to get through all 16 of January. And 3 of them are going to be rewatches, only 1 new to me. So I picked this next one because it was short and I had not watched it since it hit DVD, maybe Blu-ray, I don't know. Whenever it was finally available for me to watch originally, back in either 2011 or 2012, and that's Attack the Block, the British alien invasion movie. That's very different than most alien invasion movies.
Yo, check it. More what? Them things. Lovely fireworks. Tsunami, it's alien invasion.
Of course it is.
I'm killing them straight. Let's get tooled up, blood.
We're gonna start with some Pink because it was definitely a rewatch and one I wanted to rewatch, even though I really didn't remember a whole lot about it. But now that I've rewatched it, yeah, it stays Pink. It stays a 2. So the film stars John Boyega a few years before he became Finn in the Star Wars universe in Force Awakens, and also Jodie Whittaker, who eventually went on to become the first female Doctor. Even though I don't watch Doctor Who, I still somehow know news about Doctor Who. I don't know how I ended up in that world, but I tried it and it wasn't for me. So at the very beginning, Moses, played by Boyega, and his group of friends, these are all literal children, they're like 14, 15, they are mugging Jodie Whittaker's character, Sam, and she barely gets away because something crashes into a car next to them out on the street, and it's an alien. So the boys take it to the neighborhood drug dealer in their block, decide to keep it in Ron's weed room because it's the safest place on the block. Well, first they have to like chase the alien and kill it. But anyway, they do that. So then shortly afterwards, a bunch of aliens start coming down and terrorizing the neighborhood and their apartment block. And it's clearly targeting the boys. So it's just a matter of fighting for Earth at that point. And Sam gets pulled back in because she's also living in the block, which they didn't know. And yeah, it's all of them against a bunch of aliens. So I'm pretty sure it was fairly low budget. That really does add to the charm because the aliens are still really cool. They're all black, and I mean black, like almost looking into a void black. There's no definition to them except for what would be some fur, possibly hair, but it's what I assume the makers of Neverending Story wanted the Nothing to be. I mean, just the blackest black possible, but with a mouthful of glowing teeth. So they're still pretty freaky looking and probably didn't cost a ton of money to make either. So the movie's really more about like the characters and owning up to mistakes and doing the right thing and so on. So it's not really about aliens specifically, which is fine. Like, we have a million alien invasion movies. This one was a lot more personal feeling because almost all the action takes place in this apartment block. Remember when it came out? It was back during my movie blogging days, and I had a lot of friends who got to see it long before I did because I would have had a 2.5-year-old at the time. So I didn't get to see it until it came out on DVD, and a lot of my friends had hyped it up and really loved it. And I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like bowled over by it. But I always wanted to give it another chance. When you miss out the first time and you hear all the hype and then you watch it and you're like, well, that was good, but was it worth it? You know, we've all been there with some form of media. And that was me with this. But it really is a very enjoyable film. So it is very, very British. So if you do not have an ear for like British slang, I highly recommend closed caption because I had to. But overall, I really enjoyed the movie and I'm glad I gave it another chance. I didn't dislike it. It didn't live up to the hype that all my friends had gone crazy over. However many years ago it's been now, 14 years ago. But it is a very enjoyable short. I was very happy it was short. A very enjoyable short film. I mean, it doesn't outstay its welcome, and I love it when movies know when to end, and this one certainly did. So when I did my book journey last year, I read my first Agatha Christie book. I think it was book number 92 or somewhere on the blanket. I'm not gonna look, but anyway, and it was Murder on the Orient Express, which has been made into a movie a couple of times, one of them being as recent as 2017 with Kenneth Branagh directing and starring as Hercule Poirot. So I watched it.
You know, there is something about that tangle of strangers, pressed together for days with nothing in common but the need to go from one place to another and never see each other again.
I don't know. Okay, so the movie's, I mean, it's relatively simple plot, just like the book. Hercule Poirot, this very famous Belgian detective, ends up on a train unexpectedly. And on the second night, there's a murder of one of the passengers who, at first glance, is just kind of a shady art dealer type. But turns out that's just an alias because he was a famous American gangster who did a lot of bad stuff, one big thing in particular. And he has made a lot of enemies. So now he's very dead on a train. And Poirot is pretty sure, 100% sure, that the killer is still on the train. So he ends up interrogating all of the passengers, and that's how it goes until he makes his big reveal at the end. So the cast is actually very, very stacked. Every new face I saw, I was like, what the hell? So Kenneth Branagh is Poirot, and then Michelle Pfeiffer, Dame Judi Dench, Josh Gad, Olivia Colman, Johnny Depp, Leslie Odom Jr., Willem Dafoe, Penelope Cruz, probably some other people that might be famous and I don't know. But anyway, stacked cast, right? Didn't help. It really didn't. So I listened to the audiobook and it all came down to when Pierrot, sorry, I know I'm butchering the accent, but I'm American, I can't help it. Anyway, so it all came down to the big reveal, right? And it felt, while listening to the book, it felt very, like, it was kind of dragging with the interrogations and stuff, and it's like, dude, where's this going? And then it got to a point where it's like, well, there's no way that can be it. But then you find out, and it was actually really interesting. Now, how he came to some of those conclusions, I wasn't 100% sure. I don't know how he had some of the information he had, unless he had just remembered every single detail about reading about a case in America. That would have been the only way he could have known a lot of the stuff he knew. But I was kind of willing to let it go then. So it just felt right in the book, but in the movie, watching it, it felt weird. For some reason, watching it, it just didn't make sense how he knew what he knew. So positive thing is, it was a very pretty film, and it was relatively close to the book, but it just didn't work on film for me. So I have to say, I know Branagh's made a couple of other films with Poirot as the main character, and I will be skipping them because I just didn't think this was very good. So that was Murder on the Orient Express. The most it really makes me want to do is travel by train across a long distance with a sleeper car or a sleeper compartment and everything. It looks really fun, except for the murder part. Like, we can leave that out. But otherwise, still want to do that. All right, and then we have a rewatch of a movie from last year, The Fall Guy, with Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling.
Anyone but him. I didn't approve him. You know that. You are literally the last person on earth I want to see slap the shit out of you. I really could.
And I'm open to that in a safer environment.
I went and saw it in the theater. I don't remember much about it, only because I had a little too much to drink before. Like, we had some time between dinner and the movie. We went to an adult arcade, like a bar arcade, and there were some drinks and video games, and then I ended up a little too tipsy at the movie, and I just don't remember much of it. I remember having a good time. I just don't remember much about it. However, I can definitely say I enjoyed it upon rewatch. The movie is based off of a 1980s TV show with Lee Majors as a stuntman by day, bounty hunter by night. That was a TV show. The movie has Ryan Gosling as the main character, and he's a stuntman who gets hurt in an accident that almost kills him, and so he leaves Hollywood. And then 18 months later, the woman he was in love with, played by Emily Blunt, has finally gotten her big break as a director. They had worked together a lot because she'd been like a camera operator, and she was hoping to get into directing, and she's finally gotten it. And the producer, Gail, who they had worked for quite a bit, calls him to a set in Australia because he's like, oh yeah, she wants you here to be her new stuntman. And for the same actor he'd been a stuntman for over many, many films, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. But he gets there, and it turns out that Tom, who is the lead star, has gone missing. And so Gail tasks him with going to find him, and the director, played by Emily Blunt, Jodie, she didn't know he was coming, did not want him there or anything. So he gets caught up in this whole conspiracy of trying to find the movie star and all the crazy stuff he's been into, or the production company will pull the plug on the movie, and he doesn't want Jodie's film to fail, her directorial debut to fail. He's trying to help her without her knowing he's helping, because she's been lied to by Gail, the producer, about where Tom is and why he's not there. So anyway, he gets caught up in a lot of crazy underworld stuff, but in a fun, silly kind of way. So it's like, a big Hollywood action movie about making a big Hollywood action movie and honoring all the stuntmen and women who put everything into it all the time to make those big, fun, exciting action sequences more believable, you hope. So the movie's fun and it's cute, and a lot of it just hinges on Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt's chemistry as a couple. They were a couple, and then when he got hurt, he pushed her away, and so he's trying to win her back, but more importantly, trying to save her movie so she can have a career as a director. But then again, I've never seen either one of them have bad chemistry with anybody they've been on screen with. They both always seem to work with someone very well, and they work together very, very well. So the third act, I do have to say, is a little silly. They are trying to get the person or persons who were behind all the bad things to confess. And the way they do it, well, it's a big action movie, so it's a big action sequence full of silliness. But it does kind of speak a lot to how dangerous Hollywood playing with AI, the way they've been playing with it, what a lot of the strikes last year got involved with. It does speak to how dangerous that can be. So that was interesting. But an enjoyable movie overall. Not forgettable. I was the forgettable one. That one was on me. Or maybe it is forgettable to some people. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I think it's fun. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. Just a cute action rom-com. That's what this was. So for the last one of the month, I've already made it. Yeah, gonna be honest. I knew exactly what I was gonna watch, and I went ahead and made the square. The 2004 Mean Girls, because after watching the remake, I had to cleanse my palate.
Get in, loser. We're going shopping.
And I watched this morning as I was working on some other stuff, and I absolutely love it. So much better. And another thing I did not complain about in my 2024 Mean Girls review was that I think there was a real problem with showing Katie becoming a plastic, truly becoming a plastic in that remake. It just feels like they make the plan after she sees Regina kissing Aaron at the party. There's a musical number about something, and then she's all of a sudden the mean girl, but it wasn't a very strong performance of being a mean girl. It was just she was just there. Whereas in this one, I think it much more slowly over the school year, Katie becomes her. And that was another thing from the remake. There was no inner monologue of Katie like there is in the original. And in the original, she's like, I could hear other people getting bored of me constantly talking about Regina, but I just couldn't stop myself. It was like word vomit. And so you get a much more sense of her slipping into becoming the evil queen bee plastic that she does by the time she has the party. Whereas with the remake, there just isn't that feeling. Again, it feels like they're playing dress up and like they completely miss the point of what they're trying to say. And the fact that it's still Tina Fey behind both is just so sad. Anyway, that's it for January. I'm going to put this whole square together and hopefully come back with that in a few minutes. More than a few minutes. It's been a whole day, but I've been editing most of the day, and we went and got Kid 2's ears re-pierced for her birthday tomorrow. Doesn't matter. We're done with January's square. If this is how it's gonna go, I'll probably end up with like a 4 by 5 and a quarter blanket or so. We'll see. This is a little over, I think 16 inches across. So that was January's movies all wrapped up, and it was fun. I'm really enjoying these colors. It's nice and bright and happy because it is bleak winter. Even though the sun was out today, doesn't matter. Let's keep going. I will be back at the end of February with all the movies I watch in February. 16. We've got one we're about to watch tonight over dinner. Am I disturbing you, princess? Bless you. Anyway, so thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube things. Let me know if you have any year-long projects. I'd love to hear about them, and I'd love to know your progress. So anyway, with that being said, I will see you in the next one.